to force yourself to walk to your death. That's what it felt like for me every time I got on a plane. Hey everyone, Britta here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual life coach, and it's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. Today we have Jodi Grasso, who is one of my most favorite people in the entire world. You have seen her before, we've done a couple collabs, but more importantly, I mentioned that she had helped me when I was flying to Mexico for my gastric sleeve surgery. So as far as my fear of flying goes, it goes back all the way until 9/11. I didn't have panic attacks so much at that point, but right after I had my first child in 2006, I started to get nervous. And then when I had my second child in 2008 is when it really became debilitating. So when I fly, if you can imagine what it feels like to potentially walk, and this might sound dramatic, but this is what it is for me, guys, to force yourself to walk to your death. That's what it felt like for me every time I got on a plane. Every time that you walk down that hallway to board that plane, I feel it in my heart right now, I had to force myself to take every step forward, force myself to sit down in that seat, force myself to buckle my seatbelt, force myself to stay seated in that plane as they're closing the doors. And then knowing from that point forward, there was nothing I could do. I was completely powerless. I was completely helpless, and just surrender, being at the mercy of the pilots and believing to the best of my ability that all the maintenance was done on the planes and that planes don't just drop out of the sky. And like, this is a fear. This is what fears look like. It's not always rational. I can talk to pilots, I can talk to mechanics, I can talk to engineers all day long, and I can hear the same things from them, but that fear, that terror still existed. The longer the flight, the longer my body stayed in a state of lock, like completely just locked in, and anxiety. And there wasn't any way that I could self-soothe. There's no way that I can get out of it. Just when we can finally land, then I was okay. And it has impacted my life to the point where I didn't even want to travel home to visit family. From South Carolina to Oregon, across the country, I would avoid a plane at any cost. I've driven across the country several times just to avoid planes. I've never been to Europe or other places in the world that I want to go to and travel. I've declined amazing work opportunities because I was going to have to fly. And going to have the surgery that I had in Mexico, we had to fly. There's just no way. We thought about it. We talked about it. Stan was willing to drive. But I know that after the surgery, I was going to be in so much pain, and taking another 4 or 5 days to get home was going to be agony. And I could have just taken 4 or 5 hours to fly home. So I had to. And I was terrified. I was more afraid of the flight than I was of the surgery, because of given the option of dying 2 different ways. One, you go to sleep, and one is terrifying. So that was my reality. And I'm going to give you my perspective, my story of what happened on that plane. But I had talked to Jodi and given her permission, which she's going to share that in just a moment, to do whatever was necessary, gave her complete authority to do whatever is necessary to help me. So I boarded the plane from the East Coast to the West Coast. And that entire process was normal, terrifying, forcing myself to take each step forward, forcing myself to sit in the seat, forcing myself to stay seated, forcing myself not to cry, forcing myself not to panic to the best of my ability, at least externally, and just breathe. The plane took off. My hands started to sweat. My legs started to shake. My body had physical symptoms of fear and anxiety. And it was not the smoothest flight, but there was a moment And I can't explain it. And I'm so excited that Jodi's here because she can, at least her perspective of what took place. But there was a moment when we were on the plane, and all of a sudden there was a wave that washed over me of peace and calm, unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. So it was definitely not, I couldn't drink before the surgery. I couldn't take any kind of anti-anxiety medicine, nothing. I had nothing in my system. So it was not any kind of aid externally to explain what I felt. And as I looked around the plane, as I saw all the passengers, the only word I can tell you, which I know the word angels is not accurate, higher beings of some kind. I don't know if they were walk-ins or if they were all actually these higher density beings, but every single passenger on that plane revealed themselves to me to what I can only describe as angelic. And I just realized in that moment that we weren't necessarily flying a regular flight. We were flying in light, and everything was so bright. And I just had this peace for the rest of the duration of the flight. So Jodi, can you shed light on what happened, what you did, and how did that happen to me?
So first of all, that was such a great experience, even for me, as it was for you. And you and I had talked a lot about your fear of flying before this flight. I had tried to do a recode session with you one time before, and we were going to do that, but then we realized that there was actually something bigger you were dealing with, so we decided not to. So what I do is I don't actually heal anything, even though I do consider myself an energy healer. And I have done a lot of healing in my lifetime. This particular process is actually a releasing of your energy. It's you have created this fear for whatever reason. You have told yourself you created the fear based on something that happened in your past, and you are in light of what that is. And that's not important for now, but this fear was based on something very strong that had happened kind of in your life. Also, perpetuated by 9/11. So even though the fear started before then, you were reiterating the fear later on when things in the world had happened. So the way that it works is we have three levels of consciousness, or basically three personalities. You have your ID, your identity, your self-identity. That is who you are. That's Britta as we see you, all of that. And also you have your unconsciousness, which we know, and then you have your superconscious, and your superconscious kind of acts like it has no feeling. It doesn't care either way. But all of the programming that is written in your unconscious, where all of your feelings lie. So your ID takes all of your thoughts. Okay, so your personal identity holds all of your thoughts. Your unconscious level holds all of the feeling. That's where we think that's ego, but your identity actually is in your ego is actually in your identity. Your self-identity is a part of that. And it's filtering out all of those feelings that your unconscious is giving you. And then you have your superconscious field. And the superconscious field, it has no care or take or any of that. It's sort of like a program has been written basically by your unconscious and by 7 generations of DNA before you. And epigenetics proves this. So we have 7 generations, and this is biblical also for anybody out there that's Christian, 7 generations of anxiety, fears, worries, blessings, everything good and bad is basically in your particular code. You have created it, you have written it. Who you are right now in this lifetime, you hold on 7 generations of the path that you chose, of the person that you chose to be right now. So you had this fear of flying, and it was based on possibly some things that happened, but also 7 generations of unknown things. If you were healing this, then you would go back into the moment that it started and try to unravel it. That only heals that one little bit of it. Let's say there was a trigger that happened that created it. You only heal that trigger. So your greater release of being rid of the fear of flying doesn't actually happen because you don't know where all the different levels have come from. The other thing is you create sub-personalities, just like Britta's a mom, Britta's, you know, a coach, Britta is all these, we have all these different sub-personalities, and there's different personalities and parts of us that are trying to protect us. So I don't heal you. You're not broken. You at your core are perfect as you are. You decided in yourself at some point that this was going to make you safer in the world. Yet you had a bigger thing that you were trying to create. You were trying to create being able to go to Mexico and do something really important for yourself and for your family. And then what happened was that fear was so overwhelming. So we were in a really, really good place because I was wondering, how am I going to do this with Britta? How am I going to get her to do another recode? Because the last time we did one as a coach and as a healer yourself, you tend to get too caught up in your head because you know so much and you feel so much. And you and I are very connected. We've done a lot of spiritual work together. That was also a very big blessing on my side. Very familiar with your energy. I've been in your field many times, but I did have to have your permission to be able to go in and actually do that. And I was waiting and I was waiting and I was waiting because this was coming up. It was on my calendar. Britta's going to be flying this day. And I knew you were standing in line to get on that plane and you were texting Olga and I, and you were like, guys, I'm not feeling good at all. And this is it. This is my moment to do exactly what I have to do to help her release this. So this is kind of the process of how it works. I connect to your energy. I go into your super conscious and I get into the place of, do you see what's better for Britta at this time? It was a very, very lengthy process for you. And because the super conscious has no feelings of yes or no, it basically just wants to know, what is it that you want? Tell me what you want. And because you created the fear, your super conscious knows exactly how to reverse it or treat it. So I went in and I asked, do you see this? And do you see how important this other goal that she's creating is? Do you see the end result of what she wants to create? Do you understand? And it basically said yes right away. Did one level of treatment, but then I was still getting resistance. So I had to pull up all of your sub personalities because there are personalities in you that they're not trying to do you any harm. They truly believe that what is better for you is what you have created, and they don't want to let it go. And so I had to kind of dig through lots of different levels of sub-personalities and talk to them and bring them up to understand that what you wanted now in this lifetime right now was letting go of all the other things. Then I had to go back into your timeline of where the decision was originally made of you making this decision. We don't need to go back and revisit it, none of it. It was just, let's go back to that place. We go back with that personality at that time that created that. And we made a new decision for you, that the fear of flying was not a thing and that you were okay with planes and that planes were fun and enjoyable. Then really the one thing that really, really held you back was being a mother. It was your mother sub-personality that was fearful for many, many different reasons. One, it feared that your kids were going to have this fear because of you having it. And so we had to go in and say, no, we're going to release this now and the kids will be done. At that time, I started getting into the light, because what happens on my end when I'm connecting to someone's field, I can feel the presence of your energy, feel your body if your body is not releasing things that it needs to release. And that's just really because I personally am a energy healer. So I can connect to people physically and help them figure out what's going on sometimes. But this process, so that allows me to kind of open up in that field a little bit more. And then we got rid of that whole thing with the mother and we left all that generation. And then you had levels of different fears of, but what ifs. And so once we got rid of all of those what ifs, I just got this huge light. And then Olga, if you remember, Olga was the one, because you were texting both of us, and Olga was the one who said, surrounding your plane with 1,000 angels. And at that time, I actually felt the presence of all of that. So I think I felt the release right when you did. And just felt this overwhelming light come over me. And I was like, oh, it's done. I'm so happy that is done. And then I kind of stood with you and stayed with you for a little bit, did a little bit more releasing of fears and stuff that you had in your body, and was so excited when you got off that plane and you texted me. And I don't know if you remember that you said this, but you said, I was actually bored. I was bored on that plane.
That's
and
right.
I was like,
that's
you
right.
went from practically sweaty palms, freaking out, anxiety, all of that, to being bored. And so that is the pleasure of being a super conscious creator and creating from a place that's not just healing all of your little things, because we don't know how to do that. So we go into ourselves and we say, I don't want this anymore. I want to let it go, and we release it. So the other thing you have to understand is that you create all this by the time you're 70, like all of these things that we create in our life right now, like money blocks and relationship blocks and all of these things, we think they're things that we've learned our whole life. But I already mentioned the 7 generations, but really you stop learning so much of that by the time you're 7 years old. So take your 7-year-old perspective and think, okay, what did you see when you were 7 that you created? This is how I'm loved. This is how I get approval. This is how I get in trouble. This is what I do to get attention. This is how I get food. This is how I survive. Like, we create that. So because that's such a young perspective, it does keep you in survival mode, but it keeps you from being able to truly do a lot of things that you want to do. So we can go in to the superconscious and say, do you see what we want to create? Get you in a true end result. Your true end result was, see, that's the thing a lot of people don't get. You can't, if you wanted to make $1 million to prove to the world that you were somebody, that's not a true end result. You have to just do it for you. You really wanted to do this for you. This was something that you just wanted because you really wanted it. And it wasn't you weren't trying to prove to anyone that you could get rid of your fear of flying. You weren't trying to boast about it. You weren't, none of that. It was not based on ego. It was based on your need. So we just happened to get you in that time when you were truly needed it. And so that was what was so beautiful about it, being able to be there and like just witness that and know that it happened instantly. And I love it. I love this work so much because my clients, like, they go, I just don't know what you did. Just like you did. Like, I don't know what you did. Jodi, I don't know what you did. And I'm like, it's really not me. It's not me. I've learned to do this work. Anyone can learn to do it, and you can do it on yourself, and anyone can. And it's just incredible. It's incredible to know. This is all proven by epigenetics and neuroscience. And basically you're creating a new pathway. You had created a pathway in your brain that said that flying was going to kill you. Your identity never wants to die. It always wants to stay alive. It will do anything to stay alive. It's your whole purpose of being here, is to be alive and experience things. And it doesn't care if they're good or bad. It just is about keeping you safe. And so it wants to always, always do that. And so you create a neural pathway that said that. So we didn't actually break that. We treated it and changed it and actually created another neural pathway in its place, a bigger one. And this has been proven on MRIs and CT scans and stuff. It's incredible. It's really incredible work.
Wow. And I am so grateful because I feel like I'm actually excited to travel now. I'm excited. I'm already making plans to go fly to California around my birthday in April. Like, I'm excited. This gives me my life. It just gives me freedom. It opens so many doors. And I just like everybody else is like, how did you even do that? What happened? Like that? Yeah, 100%. Because from my perspective, it's like, I've dealt with this for so many years. And it might sound silly, but my fear of flying is actually what sparked all of this healing journey for me. The spiritual awakening stuff just kind of came with it. I can see the divinity of it being this catalyst, but I have been on this pursuit to heal my fear of flying for as long as I've had my fear of flying, because it's that debilitating.
Yeah.
And for it to just, it was like I was high.
Yeah, I get that too. I get very high after a recode. Like, it literally gives me an absolute high. I can get dizzy and I have to sit down or I have to lay down sometimes. Yeah, it's a lot. And it's a big physical release on your body too. So you need to
Yeah.
like really take care of yourself. Of course, I knew you were because you were going into surgery and didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's like any other kind of healing. It's like healing from surgery. Sometimes it's so deep and so intense
Mm.
that you have to feel that. But yeah. So the other thing that kind of came up afterwards was that you have had this for a long time, and it has been something that's like been really, I want to say it was like a crutch, like having to use crutches. It's very difficult to get rid of crutches if you've been using them for a year, because you figure out other ways to use them that are very beneficial for you. So when you release a humongous fear that you've been dealing with for a really, really long time, and again, I do not say you're healed, you're just released it, because it's not something that made you broken. It just felt bad, but you created it for a reason. So we let it go. We just said, we don't need this anymore. You got that layer off of you. So when you're using crutches and you don't have them anymore, maybe you used to use them to, kill bugs on the ceiling, or you used to use them to do whatever. Like you used to lean on them just for in general, and they're not there anymore, and then you tend to fall over, you don't, whatever. So what you want to do is every single time that you feel like maybe it's coming back, it's sort of a missing, really, is what it is. I know that that sounds crazy, that you would miss something that you hate, but there's that one little bit of you that says that this was keeping you safe. So you don't want to go there. You want to make sure that instead of like thinking of it as what if, it's not, no, it's gone, it's done. It's no longer it doesn't serve your life anymore. And you're so blessed by the fact that you don't need those crutches any longer. And so that is a really big thing that, and a lot of times, like when we're releasing money blocks on people, it's they're like, well, why isn't the money just being flowing to me? Well, it's like if you picture a river, and upstream is where you are and downstream is that pool of money that you want to get to. We'll shrink the boulders that are in between that are causing the blockage, and you have to release them. There's so many different things. For this particular one, if we had done it 3 weeks before, you would have probably built up all of those fears again, because you had to be in that place where this is go time. This is what's going to happen. My mentor, Chris Duncan, he actually brought women up on stage and healed them of their, or released their fear of public speaking or being in front of people. He did it on stage. He pulled 2 people out of the audience and released that there. Why? Because they're up there in a panic attack, and they were at a place where they actually needed it at that time. So it is really good to do that. Now, this is really good for people that have any kind of fear, especially like fear of heights. I have to release my fear of heights. I keep forgetting to do it. And then we went to Montana and we were places, and I'm like, why am I not doing this? So I'm going to get one of my other coaches, I think, to do it for me, because every time I go to do it, I fall asleep or something happens. I'm really blocked there. So I'm going to get someone else to come in and do that for me. But release the fear of heights, fear of, basically things like that, that we don't know why we have them. I have no reason to have a fear of heights. I've never fallen off anything. I've never seen anyone fall off anything. But it's there. So I have to release that for myself at some point. But I also know that that does keep me safe, because I'm not going to the edge of a cliff. And people that aren't afraid of heights, and you've probably been hiking with people that aren't, they'll walk right up to the freaking edge, and here it is, a 300-foot drop, and they don't care. And I don't think that's safe. So, I know that this keeps me safe. So it's going to be a big one to release. But it's not just that. It's really anything that anyone wants to create in their life. So whatever it is, I want to create a healthy body. Well, why is it that, all the yo-yoing that we do? Because not everybody, but most people are either in a stuck pattern where they have no idea what they want to create, which I have been there before, or they're in an oscillating pattern where things are going awesome, awesome, awesome. And then you slip back, you lose your motivation, you lose your inspiration, you have all of these things that happen, and you kind of tell yourself you don't even want to do it anymore. Think about coaching, Britta, honestly.
That sounds familiar.
Even for myself, yeah. I have to keep pushing forward, because this is not an easy game. I love it so much, but we're in this oscillating pattern all the time. What is it? Well, something's trying to keep me safe. Something is trying to keep me from excelling where I want to go, creating what I want to create, because something is something that I created. I am responsible for it. And when we go into the superconscious, it's not God and it's not angels and it's none of that. Now you can call all that in for help if you want, but really it's just you. It's your space. It's where you connect to humanity, where we're all one. So you can do group recoding because all of us connect to the superconscious field at the same time, even though your little pinpoint is an individual little light. So, yeah.
Wow. That's so amazing. Now, because everybody should work with you, and this is amazing, and I have at least 2 more sessions that now I'm thinking about I need, because heights and the oscillating already.
Oscillating, yeah.
Where can people find you that they can work with you?
My website's enlightenia.com, and I have my YouTube channel, which will probably link to this also. They can email me at enlightenia@gmail.com. So there's all sorts of ways to get in touch with me, really. Any way they want to. They can call, my number's on my website, they can email me or just message me on YouTube. And if they want, leave their info there or DM me. Facebook also, I have groups on Facebook. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for explaining this process, for one, and it makes me so excited to do more work with this, because I can honestly stand here and just give my testimony of how mind-blowing that was, how grateful I am. And like you said, we've done other things in the past, but there's this is next level. This is something that I has been my mission, and I always believed was something I could achieve, but never in a single moment like that. Like, I thought years of therapy type things, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
this is,
And
this
I'll
is
tell you, and I'll be honest with you, what I learned from epigenetics and neuroscience, because the reason I came across this was because I'm just like you, Britta, we're doing past life regressions and meditations galore and get into the right frequency. If you just get into the frequency of money, then money will flow to you. And if you just get, okay, what is the frequency? Like, how do we get there? That's just doesn't seem, or, your vortex, everything is just waiting for you. You just have to reach up and grab it. Well, I'm trying, but we don't know how. And this was the thing that was like, if you've done all of these things and you have tried all of it, this is it. And I'm telling you, this is it. Like, I was so happy to find this. Not only that, but it went completely in line. Like, Chris Duncan, the guy, he's read all the same books I've read. He's done all the same work I've done, except for this work, which was added that I didn't know about till I found out from him. So it is truly incredible. So for all of those people, that's my client. My client is the one who's just like you, who's just like me, who has done so much work on themselves and has tried and still can't seem to just get into the flow of the things that they just want to create. Yes. Do all of those things work? Yeah, they do. They work for a little while. They make you feel better for like a week or two or a few days, where you just feel like so light and beautiful and the world is great. And yet you find yourself right back where you started. And it's just so frustrating. And it's so exhausting. So that's my client, is the one who has tried and tried and tried. The law of attraction, all of that, any of it. They've done NLP. Now, this work does include a lot of NLP stuff that I absolutely love. But really, it's just the NLP stuff is just to help you, while your boulders are melting, still stay in the resistance and the tension of letting go of the resistance and getting in the tension of what you want. So, but it's great. It's great. I learned so much in this. For 9 months, I studied this practice just every day on it. And I had this whole plan. I was going to get certified in 30 days. And even with all of the energy work that I've done, I still was like, I'm not there yet. I need more. And I really studied this every day for 9 months. And before I even started studying it, I was already teaching a lot of the work. Not because of Chris Duncan, but because it's so in line with what I understand to be true from all of the work that I have done and from all of my time in energy work. This is big energy work. Everything is energy. And I know that, and I feel that. And that's what this is. It's just a releasing and a clearing.
Wow.
Of all of it. So yeah, let's do some more work together. I'd love to.
Yes, and I do have one more question. I meant to ask it when you had said something earlier. So you were saying that if we had done this 3 weeks before, because I wasn't in it, I wasn't feeling it, and I didn't have like that need that I had when I was in it, that I could have built back up the fears again. Does that mean that I can build back up the fears again down the road, or is this
You had
forever?
a full releasing of it, but that's what I was saying about your crutch. Okay. Because if we had done it, you may have felt really great, but you probably have done a lot of things that you felt really great for a couple of weeks. But you would have been like, you would have been thinking, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And I never, ever, ever believe in positive thinking will get you there. Like if you just think positively when you get on that plane, everything's going to be fine. It's not. It's really, so now are you going to? No, but you could, if you're holding on to that crutch really tightly. It's like a trauma bond when you've been in a bad narcissistic relationship. Trauma bonds are things like when it creates all this energy, but it's bad. So you feel the person that you're in a narcissistic relationship for gaslights you, makes you feel very, very bad about yourself, and makes you question your own mind. Believe it or not, we get addicted to that. And so when you have a really big thing that you've been trying to heal for a long time, trying to get over, trying to get past, you create a trauma bond with yourself. And you kind of miss having that to worry about. And in all of our fears, there are things that are positive about them. So what would be positive about having a fear of flying? One, you don't ever have to buy a plane ticket that could be very expensive. Two, you get to travel by driving everywhere you want to go, and that can be fun. So there are good things to it as well. And so you would create, if we had done it 3 weeks earlier, just because I've done one with you before, and that was kind of what I was prefacing with too, and you were questioning so much the whole time, and even though I said, Britta, just don't think, just let me work, don't, and yet you were like, what, I was thinking this and I was thinking that, because of, one, you're very in tune with energy, two, very in tune with what's around you, and so not necessarily knowing what's going on, you're gonna have a lot of question. But no, that's why if you start worrying that is it going to come back, then you have to just say, no, I'm healed. I'm healed. It's sort of like if you got your appendix out, right? You get your appendix out, you don't wonder if the appendix is going to grow back. The appendix isn't going to grow back. This isn't going to come back. You no longer need it for any reason. It is completely gone and released, and it's just done. So just know that. And, you know, if something bad even happens on a plane, that will be something new. That won't be from this.
Right.
It won't bring up all those fears again. It's done. You have recoded. That's why I call it a recode. You basically went into your superconscious. They rewrote all of your code. They filtered it down through the unconscious, told the unconscious, look, this is what we're doing now. And the unconscious has no say, except for it gives that opportunity to go, oh, but what about this? And what about this? And what about that? And I say, it doesn't matter. None of that matters what you think. This is what we're doing. Stand up and recode. And so they took the treatment. It's all gone. Everybody's on board with Britta liking to fly now. Did that? I mean, it's a long answer, but this stuff is not easy to explain. It takes, I mean, I do classes and classes and classes, and explain how it all works. So yeah.
Well, I thank you for taking the time to explain it and to explain what the other side of what I experienced was. I think that's fascinating, and I love it. And I love you, and I'm grateful for you.
I love you too. And thank you so much for having me on your channel, and giving me the opportunity to explain what happened here, and being a great testimony of this work. There are thousands of people that have benefited from this. Most recently, my mentor, Chris Duncan, was one of the guys that became a certified coach through him too. Healed his ability to see. He couldn't see, he was blind, and now he can see. And I know that took a long time, because through the process he was taught, it was a layers and layers and layers of just, what is it? What is it? You don't have to know. And that's one of the things I love most about this work, is we don't have to know why. Britta has a fear of flying. We don't know, we don't have to know why Dean can't see. We don't have to know any of that. We just simply need to understand that it's our choice to create what we want. We have free will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I used to coach all the time. Your free will is what you're choosing. If all of your actions are going towards your free will of what you want to choose, all of your actions, all of your focus, all of that is what you want to create, then that is what you're choosing. See, we all have free will choice. Again, that's biblical. God gave us free will to do whatever we want to create, as long as our motive is right. And that's where you have to make a true choice. That's truly what is in line with your being, with your purposes. So that takes a little bit of work sometimes to get people into the right true choice, but we do that and unpack it. And this work also has, like, if you have family entanglements that you want to remember or bring up, we can do family entanglement stuff and all sorts of different work in that field too. So it's really great.
I love that. Well, guys, thank you for being here with us and listening to my story and Jodi explaining this. If you have not been inspired by now to check her out, do it. Seriously, you're not going to regret it. She's amazing. And down in the description, I'll have the links to her website and everything like that for you guys to check her out. And while you're at it, check out her link to her YouTube channel, which will be in the description below as well. Thank you guys so much. I love you. If you have questions, put them in the comments and maybe we'll get together again. We'll answer the questions, but if not, we'll definitely be answering them within the comments. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Britta.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.